I am trying to nail down the ship names and basic information, keel laying, yard operator, etc., for all the ships Britain was selling to the Chinese emperor in its civil war. Having written a biography of Maury, I know CSS Rappahannock was one, but the others are murkier. Related to this were stories that reached U.S. diplomats that the Chinese, after rejecting most of the British vessels as unstable, turned to Arman and at least one other French yard to buy ships. Since most of the war was waged on rivers, I would not expect the order to be anything larger than a sloop or gunboat.
So let's start with what we have and what we know here. We know that the person doing the research knows that Rappahannock, CSS Rappahannock, was one of the ships that he's researching. So let's see what the database has about CSS Rappahannock. Now, these are different ships named Rappahannock. They're not all necessarily the Confederate vessel, but some of them might be. Great Lakes vessels online, that's from 1895, so certainly is not. Here's a schooner that's of interest. And here's an interesting one. This is a link to WorldCat. WorldCat is a collection of the holdings in libraries across the country and somewhat around the world. And the links into WorldCat have changed a lot. They're not as specific as they used to be, so it can be really challenging at times uh, to determine what it is you're looking for. And often I'm quite frustrated with WorldCat, but in this case, they actually have come back with what might be very useful. It becomes hard to understand what the resource is. You really need to take a close look at it to figure out what we're really looking at here. And what we find is a construction and purchase of Confederate cruisers in Great Britain during the Civil War. Well, we were looking for ship names for the ships that Britain was selling to the Chinese emperor in its civil war. So we have a couple different civil wars going on here, I think, but this may be very useful. And what I can see is that we can see that this is an article. This is an article from a journal called Mariner's Mirror, which is the central, the most important journal in maritime history. And so we know that it appeared in 1977. We don't have a lot of information in this. So I'm going to try something a little bit different to figure out what it is we're looking for. Well, we know it's pages 71 to 92. We believe that it's published in 1977. I'm going to use a tool called a, um, a discovery layer to see if I can learn more about this. And I'm hopeful that I can, but to be honest, I don't know. In my looking around, a discovery layer is a little bit complicated, and we don't have enough time to explain it here, but it's kind of like a Google for searching all of the subscription, very expensive collections that libraries subscribe to every year. And you cannot get to the full text of the resource, but you can at least learn where it is, and you can get more specific information. I'm going to go to library.yale.edu because I have found that their discovery layer is very useful. So this is the Yale Library's homepage. Every academic library is going to have this one search box on their homepage. And so I'm going to put in the wording from that particular article, and we're going to see what we find in here. We're looking for journal and magazine articles, and we did not find it. That is too bad. I was really hoping that it would come up here. Okay, so we didn't find it. So I'm going to think about some other things that we can do. What I'd like to do is I'm going to search for well, I'm going to do a quick search for Mariner's Mirror. What I really want to do is find out. So they do have a lot of content from Mariner's Mirror, but it's possible that it doesn't go back to 1977. I think that that's probably the challenge that we're facing here. What I'd like to do is I'm going to jump back a little bit and get back to the oh, here, I'll go back to the library's homepage. I'm going to look for Books Plus. I don't think that's quite what I really want to do is find out. I'm going to go back to the Yale Library homepage. I want to look for journals. I'd like to find out. I'm going to start with the title, Mariner's Mirror, and I want to find out where I can find digitized versions of Mariner's Mirror. And here's part of the problem. They only have 1997 to present, and we believe that that article was in 1977. And that's from a publisher called Taylor and Francis online. So what we might try doing next, we could just do a Google search for Mariner's Mirror or the Society for I think it's Nautical Research. Those are the publishers of Mariner's Mirror. And let's see if we can find a listing of their issues, or perhaps we can even do a search on this page. So I'm searching the Mariner's Mirror with the title of that article that we're looking for, because so what we can find is we found that, okay, so it was by Richard Lester. It was published in February of 1977. It's a little bit more than we had before, and we need to subscribe here to be able to have access to the full resource. But what we would really like to do is request the article through interlibrary borrowing from your local public library or whatever other library you might have a connection with. And that is something you absolutely can do. You can get as much information from here as you can. You have enough information to submit a request. You have the title of the article, you have the author of the article, you have the date, February 1977. Sorry about that. You have the name of the journal, Mariner's Mirror, and they can figure out the rest for you. If you do submit a request for an article from your local public library, they'll probably provide it to you for free. So be sure to provide them with a little bit of financial support as well, if they're able to provide it to you, because it takes them a bit of doing, a bit of money to make it happen, and it's a great service that they provide for free.